All right. Hello. Good afternoon. This is Steve Melito, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of Go Natural Education. And today we are speaking to Laura Decker, who is the president of MicroBIOMETER. Laura, how are you?
Good, good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You are our first guest ever.
That's amazing. Inaugural.
Good, good. So as we have been speaking, Go Natural Education has been working on a soil series, and the grand finale is going to be about soil testing. So I figured there's no better person to talk to than Laura from MicroBIOMETER.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, soil testing is what we talk about and do all day long. And so it's interesting and complex and a really good way for people to learn about food supply, climate change, all that.
Absolutely. So what are some of the basics about soil health? I think people tend to think of pH, but not about microbes.
Yes. So a lot of the change over the years in understanding soil health has moved from chemical understanding of soil health to biological, right? Now, of course, soil has both chemistry and biology, just like you and I do. And for years, particularly Western agriculture has focused on NPK and pH, right? So putting chemical substances in the soil to increase production. We know through the Green Revolution that was incredibly effective in terms of increasing the amount of food that could be built on the planet and making a real dent in hunger across the world. So I'm not mitigating the positive impacts, but we've come to a point where the chemical use and obviously the population of the planet is exploding, the chemical use of the soil has sort of turned around, right? So now if you use chemical farming, which is sort of what I call it, right? It's sort of like you living just on inshore, you can survive, but it's not very healthy. So when we now talk about soil health, we talk about a range of things, right? Soil structure, water holding capacity, soil chemistry, which is the sort of minerals that are in it, and also soil biology. So in soil and on everything on the planet is pretty much covered in microbes, right? Bacteria and fungi. And what we know is that plants and soil have a symbiotic relationship with each other. Okay, so there are microbes in the soil and there are plants that grow in that soil. And the plant and the microbes barter and trade substances that they need to survive. It's a very complex relationship that's been built over billions of years. Microbes are obviously one of the first organisms on the planet. And they have been working with plants for millions and millions of years to basically harvest nutrients from the soil to feed the plant. And then the plant takes a lot of what it gathers, air, carbon from photosynthesis, and puts it into the soil. So a plant is very efficient. So it will barter with microbes if it has to, right? Just like you and I. But if you chemically feed through nitrogen and fertilizers a plant, it will stop, right, bartering with the microbes because it doesn't have to. It's very efficient. And so that link has been disconnected. We know that microbes do a lot of things for soil health. They build soil structure. So when we talk about soil structure, I want you to picture, like when you were a kid, the fields that you played with at school, right? They were like cement.
Yes.
They were hard, right? There was no air, there was no water, right? There was nothing growing. Roots could go in about that far. Soil structure is actually created by microbes and roots. So you take soil, right, which is you just take sort of the mineral component of soil, which is sand, clay, all that stuff. You put roots and microbes in it. Those are carbon-based things, right? The microbes secrete this really cool substance that makes these little aggregates, little homes for themselves, like they're so cute when I think about them. And these little aggregates make little pockets that can hold air and can hold water, okay? And also roots can more easily penetrate an area. So if you've ever gone to some really, what you see is a wonderful garden, the soil is clumpy, it's not dry, it doesn't run through your fingers, and that is soil structure. It smells good, it's dark, right? So microbes work with plants to build soil structure. Soil structure aerates naturally the soil, so you don't have to till all the time. And one of the important things of soil structure is fungal content. So fungi have lots of hyphae that makes more space in the soil. And then when the fungi die, that space remains, and the bodies of dead microbes form carbon. So when people talk about sequestering carbon in soil and reducing excess carbon in the atmosphere, putting in the ground is a great idea, right? Because then it becomes plants. Life is good, right? It's a neat cycle. So we could go on, but when we talk about soil structure, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not one test that you do. It's a real understanding of the history of the soil, where you are. I mean, the things you can accomplish in the rainforest of Brazil are not the same things you can accomplish in the farmlands of Australia, right? Those are very different soils.
Right.
They need very different treatments. And the capacity for life, both plant and microbial, is different. And then what you want to do with the soil, right? So a lot of agriculture now is becoming more holistic, right? We want to mob graze cattle. We want to intercrop. We want to do cover crops. We want to do all these things to improve the soil structure. The point of improving soil structure is manifold. Sequestering carbon, so we all don't burn to death on this planet, right? Improving the finances of farming. Chemical fertilizers are very, very expensive. If you don't have to use those, that's great. Environmental, those chemicals, if used in excess, can be very dangerous. And also, there's a lot of evidence that food grown naturally with the microbial community is just naturally healthier. There's more micronutrients because all those microbes make micronutrients that feeds the plant. And we do know that plant immunity is mostly microbial. And those antioxidants that you love in kale and spinach are the result of immune activity between the plants and the microbes. So if you don't have a plant, ironically, that is just like a kindergartner, when you don't expose them to germs, they get sicker, right? Until they build up an immunity and then they're nice and healthy. That's kind of the kale you want to eat. So understanding soil structure, building soil structure and healthy food is really the building blocks. You know, for the people in regen world, we get really excited. We think we could save all the world's problems. Probably not true at all, but that's the part we're working on, which is to improve the stability of the food supply system, the health of the food, and obviously to mitigate climate change. So that's a little bit about soil health, soil testing. There's lots of ways to do it. And there's lots of things to consider. So I wish I could tell you it was super easy, but it's not. There's chemical tests. We run a test for microbial biomass that's a cheap and sort of easy way to benchmark and look at changes in soil. There's more complex ones. There's DNA tests that are coming out. I will sort of warn people it's early in the DNA world of microbes. There are millions and billions of microbes. Microbes only have a small amount of DNA, so the variation in them is quite large. And we don't quite know what they'll do. And we know that there are some purely pathogenic ones, but there's a lot of ones that are troublesome only in poor soil. So the DNA testing isn't quite where it needs to be, but really diversity and size of microbial population is sort of the best indicator right now of soil health.
Sure. So let's talk about your test. And I suppose first off, we can compare it to what existed before. My understanding is you had to take the soil to a laboratory and it was expensive and inconvenient. And if you were, okay, show us, tell us.
I have it here. I keep it around. So soil microbes are living creatures in the soil. And the existing tests that are for microbial life, probably the best one is microscopy. Okay, we know that. You take soil, living, healthy soil, you prepare it, which is difficult. Microbes are glommed onto those soil particles. So you want to extract them without killing them, right? And then you want to put them in a solution, which is hard. And then you want to look at them under a microscope, right? Microscopy is very, very difficult. People go to school for it. It's very hard. You have to differentiate things, but it is a very good way to say, what is the population now? The other test, you take the soil and you send it to a lab. Okay, some of the tests dry out the soil and reconstitute it, okay, which has its problems, right? Because if you have a whole community of microbes and you kill them, which is drying them out, some will sporate, and when they come back in links. So because microbes only have a little bit of DNA, they can only make a few substances that they need. So microbe A will start, and it'll make the substance that B needs. So B will start to reproduce, and C and D. That takes a while. If you kill them all and reconstitute it, you're going to get something slightly different. Okay. We realized early on that microscopy is not something that we can really scale up, right? For smallhold farmers in India and Africa, you're not going to give everyone a microscope and hours of training, right? So what this test is, this is the microbiometer. It was designed by Dr. Judith Fitzpatrick, who's a microbiologist. She wanted a simple and easy test that people around the world could use. So nothing dangerous about it, no crazy chemicals in it, and nothing too expensive, right? Because that is one of the things to bring soil biology data to people, it has to be affordable. So she said, let's use a cell phone. So what you do is take living soil, you put it in a sodium solution and whisk it up to separate the microbes. You let some of the soil particles settle out, and you put drops of it onto our test card and use the cell phone to use our algorithm to read it. You can do it. It's about $7 a test when you run it, which is hopefully we're working on getting it lower so people can really test. And people use it to say, okay, where am I in my soil? And also where in my farm or garden are there different patches of soil that are doing well or not well? How does it vary with the cycles, right? Winter, obviously they're going to be lower than spring. And then as I change practices, like maybe I stop using so much chemical fertilizer, maybe I move away from herbicides and pesticides. What does that do to my soil biology, right? With the hope that as you understand what impacts soil biology, you can work to build soil structure and plant natural plant nutrition more easily, more safely, more environmentally friendly, and also more productively financially. There are millions of farmers around the world who are living basically in poverty. And one of the things that we need to do if we're going to work on sort of income equality around the world is make farming more lucrative. Our real hope at MicroBIOMETER is that we can be a part of helping farmers grow carbon as well. So their income streams will be from, say, corn and carbon credits, right? So the bodies of microbes are soil carbon, right? It takes a long time to build soil carbon. It takes about 10 minutes to destroy it, which is sad to say. But we would like to be part of helping farmers really get a new revenue stream and enable us to make things in manufacturing that does produce carbon, right? We do know that manufacturing and industry does create excess carbon in the environment, but can we offset that with helping farmers do better, grow better food, and live a better life themselves? So the kit we manufacture here in New York State, we're very proud to be in the Hudson Valley. We do all the procurement and manufacturing ourselves, and we ship direct around the world. So most of our sales are international. A lot of other countries are sort of farther on ahead of doing we call them farmer researchers, really the farmers trying to understand what's happening. In the United States, and there are lots of exceptions, but in general, agronomists take a soil sample, send it to the lab, and tell you what chemicals to throw down. And that cycle is really not very effective in sort of understanding things, and in also taking a very, very individualized approach to each farm.
Sure. Now, Laura, to use your test kit, what type of skill does a farmer need to have? You mentioned it's very popular in the third world, and obviously a lot of our third world farmers are not going to the university. Do they need a lot of scientific knowledge to use it?
No, and in fact, one of the funnest users of our kit are elementary school students. So we have an app that has both video and written word instructions and pictures. So it's going to feel like being in middle school. You open up this funny little kit. Okay, here it is. You open this funny little kit and you open the app and it walks you through all the instructions and the timers. You can see that there's nothing in here that's unsafe or dangerous. No one can hurt themselves. We are working on getting the attachments onto our app that will allow Google and Apple to translate. Okay, so we really, really would like this to be in more languages, but we've done everything we can, like IKEA, right, to have the instructions not be dependent upon knowing English. So we have a YouTube video where you can just watch someone do it and go from there. So there's really nothing you need except a little bit of time and some patience. When people order the kit, this is a starter kit. It has 10 tests in it. When you order a starter kit, we give you 5 extra tests to sort of play with, get used to it. And then people order refills. The refills are the extraction powder, which is just a sodium solution, and our test cards that we manufacture as well. And then all the plastic that's in here, sadly, we can't use glass because we think people on the farm will break it, but all the plastic can be reused. So we're trying to do that. And the kit is very hardy because people keep it in their trucks, in their bag, you know, all kinds of places. But the app will walk you through it and it'll hold all that data for you. So you can GPS locate where you tested, what time of year, add little notes. So you could say, wow, if my microbes went down, I wonder why. Let me look at that data over time. And you can, for those of us who are too old to look at teeny screens, you can also access it on the cloud on a big screen and look at your data. And you can also make a project and have other people send it. So, you know, apps really have so much capacity that people don't use, but increasingly teams of farmers are using the microbiometer and sharing the data across and hopefully combining it with other methods like other chemical tests and practice analysis, really.
That is fantastic. And I sincerely hope that people that watch this video, many of whom will be in the US and Canada, will tune into the fact that this kit is available. How would they buy one? Do they go to your website?
Oh, yeah. So we sell direct out of New York State. It's MicroBIOMETER.com, and we ship around the world. So it's free to US and Canada, and there's flat rate shipping around the world. We sell in over 20 countries as it is right now. And then in certain places, the UK and Australia, if you reach out to us, we have distributors. Some countries, it's a little time consuming to get stuff shipped there. Sometimes you get stuck in customs.
Sure.
Sometimes they don't know what to do with it in customs and you get a big bill. So in certain countries, we have distributors who have supply right there. So you can get it a little faster, but anyone could order direct from microbiometer.com. And our company is very small. There's 4 of us. So if there's any questions or feedback, we are a small, innovative company. So a lot of our product development and product improvements come from people writing us. So we love to hear, we say the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so it's very exciting. So yeah, it can be ordered direct from our site. A starter kit's $135 US. And then the refills go down to about $7 per order.
That's fantastic. Laura Decker from MicroBIOMETER, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.